What's going on? I'm John, and in this writing vlog, I'm going to be getting started drafting my first epic fantasy novel as part of Camp NaNoWriMo. And this week is also special because it is the first week of my Novelist Apprenticeship Challenge, and well, it's going to be a little bit of a doozy. Because it's the first week of July, here in the US, we have the 4th of July coming up, so I'm going to be spending some time with my family, running a 5K, all sorts of fun stuff, but that means that I can't be writing for one of those days, and that bumps up my total for each day to 5,500 words. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and I will see you on the first day. I think I'm just going to start writing the first character's arc, Miksa's, just because might as well start there, right? Okay. So I'm looking at the scenes that I'm going to be writing today. I'm probably going to end up writing from scene, well, it's not really scene 2. I put a prologue here, like, just in case, because I am going to add one eventually, but I haven't thought about it right now. And I think I'm going to add it in the end. So I'm going to start with the opening image, and I'm probably going to work my way all the way through to this debate scene. So I'm going to take some time to review 2 of these scenes, and then I'm going to get started on actually writing them. Okay, so I've written for about an hour and 30 minutes so far. I have gotten 1,300 words into this first scene. It's definitely changed a little bit from what I was thinking it was going to be. I kind of raised the stakes a little bit because the original scene, as I was writing it, didn't seem like there was really that much conflict and like it was really going to draw in readers. So I kind of took things up a notch a little bit, and that has gotten us to the point where we are right now in this story. When you're writing a fantasy story like this, it's kind of crazy because I'm writing this fantasy story and it's a completely different world. I'm really trying to make sure that I'm not like overwhelming people with world building details at the very start here. So I'm including, a little bit of explanation of certain important things. It's really all through the perspective of the POV character and their own thoughts about what's currently going on in the situation. I've also tried to throw in little pieces of world building here and there, but I'm really not trying to overwhelm people. I'm trying to keep the learning curve, relatively low here, even though it's epic fantasy. Anyway, I'm going to take a little bit of a break, just do some stretching and whatnot, and then I'm going to come back and continue with the writing. Okay, so I've been writing for quite a while already, and I think that I'm in need of a break, basically. I'm not writing so efficiently right now. It took me a while to get through the last 250 or so words, so I'm thinking that my pace is kind of slowing down, and I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. Right now, I'm at 2,254 words, so I still have quite a bit to write, but I do think that it'll be nice to just take a little bit of time away and chill out a little bit, and hopefully that will help me, recover some of my consciousness back and allow me to write more efficiently later on. I think I'm going to do some reading, probably maybe read some Oathbringer, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I'm back and ready to continue writing. I still have 3,000 words left to go for the day, at the least. Actually, really 3,500. So I got a little bit of a ways to go. I'm tired. Okay, I just finished my first day of doing this writing, of challenging myself to write 5,500 plus words in a day. So it is 2:11 right now, and I have written 5,675 words so far. So safe to say it was quite the day for writing. It was pretty difficult to actually write this much. So what I ended up having to do was splitting up my day into multiple different writing sessions. So in the beginning, I wrote from about 5 o'clock to maybe 8. So I took about 3 hours in the beginning, and then I came back around lunch or whatnot around 10:40 or so, and I wrote for a little bit more. I got worn out again, so I went and I took a bit of a longer break outside, and then I came back and finished this off here. So Overall, I ended up writing quite a bit today, and actually I spent a long time writing today, and the time concern is really one of my main things that I'm kind of worried about with this challenge, because I'm doing a lot of things with my time. For instance, I'm reading fantasy books. I'm also doing my running 5 days a week, and because the distances have gotten longer, that takes an hour or even more most days. So that's another thing that's kind of going to eat up my time. This is only the first day that I've actually written something really seriously for a while, so it is still a little bit new, and I think I might adjust over time, especially to doing this word count and coming up with some sort of routine that works out for me. But as a first day, it was definitely pretty tough, and that was without having actually any running today. So this was an easier day. I had about an hour extra in time. So one thing that I'm thinking about doing potentially, I'm thinking I'll do it during the second week actually, so that I can compare to this week, is reading the book 2K to 10K and then seeing what I can learn from that and using those lessons to hopefully improve my efficiency in writing this story. Anyway, that was the writing for the day. I will see you tomorrow. Okay, so I am back here for day 2 of my Camp NaNoWriMo. Yesterday, I managed to write a little bit more than 5,600 words. Today, I'm aiming for another 5,500. So today, I'm going to be starting from the first of the debate scenes. Midway through is where I stopped last time. So I'm going to start midway through this debate scene, and I'm probably going to add on, 4 more scenes to that. So I think I'm going to get to around the first fun and games scene today. So that is where I'm aiming to get here with my writing today. I would like to get to or finish the first of the fun and games scenes, and it's really cool actually to be writing just one character at a time, because by sticking with this one character, I basically have 50,000 or so words planned for them, so I get to do like a little standard NaNoWriMo with that character, but it's gonna happen so quickly. Even now, just the fact that I got all the way past the catalyst and into the debate is crazy to think that I'm moving through this book so quickly. So I'm going to continue here today, and I just need to get started because, let's be real, I have a lot to write. Okay, so I finished my first writing session for the day, I guess. I wrote for about 2-ish hours, and I have managed to write 7,420 words. Okay, so the writing that I'm doing is actually starting to get pretty interesting. I just got through the 2 debate scenes, and we're now about to get to the break into 2. So this is getting very exciting, and I am very much ready to come back and write that. However, it is about time for me to take a little bit of a break. Well, first of all, I need to take a bathroom break, but also go get a breath of fresh air or something. Then I'll come back, and I think I'll write for another 2 hours or so, maybe until about 9 something. Okay, so I'm back from my little break, and now I'm going to get into writing the break into 2. And I also think I might be able to start, if not finish, the B story scene 2. I'm planning on working for about another 90 minutes to 2 hours before I take my next break. I'm tired. Okay, so I have been writing for quite a while here. It is now 8:58, almost 9, and I am at 9,359 words. So I'm getting close to having written 4,000 words today, which is great because I'm ahead of where I was yesterday as far as like the pace of writing so far. However, I'm feeling really worn out now. My eyes are like just tired. I feel my writing slowing down. My creativity is going a little downhill right now. So what I'm going to do right now is take a pretty long break. I'm going to go and do my walk today because today is a cross-training day, and I'm going to be walking 5 miles, so it's going to be quite a while. I am also going to listen to Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, of course, and I'm going to have some breakfast, take a shower, all of that good stuff. And then when I come back, hopefully I'll feel nice and refreshed, and I will be able to work on this some more and finish up my writing for the day. I only have 1,800 more words left to reaching my daily goal, and I think that's actually pretty achievable, so I am very happy to do so. Okay, so it has been quite a while since I was writing, and what I'm going to be writing right now is the B character scene, basically. Miksa, one of the POV characters, has already sort of met this B character, but this is his first real scene with this character, so that's the scene I'm going to be writing right now. And maybe I'll end up writing another one of those fun and game scenes afterward. Anyway, I'm going to get back into my writing because I still have about 1,800 words until I get to the 5,500 point, and it is already noon, so I need to get going. Let's get into it. Okay, so I have just finished all of my writing for the second day in a row, and this one was actually quite interesting. It is now 1:55, and I have written so far 11,371 words. As you may remember, yesterday I was sitting at 5,675, so I went a little bit over my 5,500 mark. Oh yeah, and it's kind of crazy that I'm already 42 pages, right? So today I finished both of the debate scenes, I finished the break into two, the B story, as well as starting one of the fun and game scenes and nearly finishing it, but I still have like a little bit left and like a tiny little sequel that I'm going to put at the end of it. So overall, I have finished quite a bit as far as this is going so far. So today definitely felt a lot faster. I felt like I was able to get through the writing more quickly, and I'm actually tracking my word counts and the amount of time it took to write them, so that if I do that video where I'm trying to apply the lessons from 2K to 10K, I compare my results. I created this little spreadsheet here. So basically it's just words written, total time in minutes, and then words per hour. So the first day I got 794, and today I ended up getting 976. So I clearly ended up writing a little bit faster today, and that's obviously a good thing. I'm very happy to have been able to write faster today, especially since I had more stuff to do with my hour and 20 minutes or so walk. And I feel like the reason why I was able to write a little bit faster was because I didn't let myself get as distracted by research. Basically, I didn't let myself look up things in the process of writing, which is always a good rule of thumb, but you know, I got back into it and I wasn't quite so used to being strict about this. And then also I was already absorbed enough into the world. I felt like I understood the kind of standard language of this person's life as far as the things that he talks about, the places that he talks about in the city and whatnot. I already kind of knew the names for all of this stuff. And of course, there were some things that I didn't know the names of, but instead of trying to come up with the names on the spot, what I did was I just put a TK for them. And later on, I will come back and I will name all this extra stuff that I never thought about when I was doing my naming video. So today went very well as day 2, and I hope that I can do just as well on day 3. The fact that I'm so far along in this character's arc already is pretty awesome, actually. So I'm very happy that I have gotten to this point. So I will see you tomorrow with more writing and more NaNoWriMo goodness. What's going on? It is day 3 of my triple NaNoWriMo experience, and it is the last day I have before my day off, where I'm going to be hanging out with my family on the 4th of July. So let's just get started by talking about what I'm aiming to do today. So my word count, as you can see, is at 11,300, and I'm aiming to write 5,500 words each of these days, and technically a little bit more than that. So I think today a good point to get to would be 17,000 words. I'd be very happy to reach 17,000. As far as scenes are concerned, it's going to be a whole lot of fun and games today. So I'm currently on this fun and game scene, the first one. I'm going to be finishing up this scene, and then I'll probably be able to write 4 or 5 more of them. But since there's so many scenes in the fun and games, I'm not going to be able to get all the way through it yet. So I'll probably end up getting like, I don't know, to scene 14 or 15. So that is what I'm going to be working on here. I'm actually going to go switch over to the couch because it's all comfortable and whatnot, and it's quiet right now. It's 5 in the morning. Okay, I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a break here because it is already almost 7 o'clock, and I managed to write over 2,000 words, and honestly, I'm feeling a little bit tired. My brain is feeling a little worn out after writing all of that. So now I'm going to take a little bit of time outside. I think I'm just gonna like sit outside and breathe in some fresh air and whatnot. And then I'll come back and continue working on this a little bit more after that. Okay, so today, for the first time, just feeling a little bit worn out, which you could expect since I haven't been writing that much recently, and I'm definitely not used to writing 5,500 plus words a day. However, just because I'm feeling a little bit tired does not mean that I should not do what I said I was going to do. But I'm not going to lie to you. I want to be honest with you about how this experience is going, and to be quite honest, this is actually really hard. I mean, writing 2,000 words in the morning already is pretty difficult, and then sitting down again to write another 2,000, and then sitting down again to finish up another 1,500 or so. It's not exactly an easy thing to do, to be quite honest. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit worn out. However, I do recognize that as a human being, we're like super adaptable. And if I keep pushing myself to do this over a long period of time, it'll just become the norm. Writing for however many hours a day, writing 5,500 words, spending this much time in my story really won't feel that foreign to me. And eventually it'll be normal to do. I mean, even now, after 2 days, like on the second day, it just felt more normal to be writing for that much time. And even though I ended up finishing it pretty late, it just felt like it wasn't that weird of a thing to do. So I will continue going with this and I will adapt to this. So that's just kind of where I am right now as far as the feelings of this process. But I'm going to get back into writing because, first of all, I want to get really good at this writing thing, and this is going to be a great opportunity for me to do so. Okay, so it is almost 9 o'clock, and I have now gotten to the 15,000 word mark. So I still have about 1,600 left to go. So that actually was not that bad when I got into the actual writing. I have just finished my writing session for now, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then I'll come back in the afternoon to continue this and to work on this a little bit more and finish up my 5,500 words for the day. Okay, so here I am and I'm back ready to start my third session of writing for the day, basically. It is 11:03 and I have about, let's see, 1,600 or so words left to write to reach my goal of 17,000. And I just finished up the last scene before stopping, so now I'm starting on the fifth of the fun and games scenes. There are only 2 left after this before the midpoint. I will end somewhere around there, almost done with fun and games, and moving on toward the midpoint and then bad guys closing. Okay, so I have just finished day 3 of my Camp NaNoWriMo, of my writing 5,500 plus words every single day. So right now it is 1:09 and I ended up at 17,025 words today. Part of the reason I finished early today is because I didn't actually do a run today. Normally on Sundays I do a long run, but since tomorrow is 4th of July, I'm actually going to this 4th of July 5K with my family. So I figured that I wouldn't run 8 miles before that. So tomorrow I'm gonna do like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 miles, including the 5K. Okay, so today I did pretty well with writing speed actually as well. It was very similar to yesterday. All right, I wrote about 942 words per hour. It ended up taking a little bit longer and I wrote a little bit less than yesterday. And I think the reason why it took a little bit longer is because I had a little bit of editor brain kind of going on. I was noticing some details like how much exposition I'm using, as well as how much I'm showing versus how much I'm telling. And I do think that my use of showing and telling does make sense because I mostly tell at the beginning of different scenes where I'm kind of summarizing what happened since the last scene and kind of like leading us between the scenes up until the start of the next one. So obviously it is a balance that I need to make sure that I am doing a good job of managing, and that is kind of where that extra brain effort has been going and probably why I was a little bit slower today than yesterday. But I think I still did a great job today. I was able to write rather quickly and also for a very long time. And one thing that I do wonder is whether not doing some form of exercise today actually ended up slowing me down a little bit, because yesterday I felt so refreshed after I did that, after I was outside for so long and away from the computer for so long. And I just came back and I sat down and I was ready to go. I feel like that really helped me to come back really strong for that second part of the writing. But I don't know, maybe that's just in my head. Anyway, I'm going to keep paying attention to these patterns and whatnot and keep going. So actually tomorrow I'm going to be taking my first rest day, basically. I mean, I felt a little bit tired today, but I don't think that I really need the rest day yet. However, it is the holiday and I'm going to be hanging out with my family. You'll see some of that in just a little bit. And then I will get back to writing very soon. And by the way, we are at 63 pages. It has been 3 days. We'll keep this in. Okay.
You sound like a barber shop Tri-Tent.
Okay, anyway. I'm here with my cousins and we are getting ready for the 4th of July 5K.
Kind of like on drugs right now.
And they're talking a bunch about random stuff, so
We're just kind of warming up here, just doing a little walk in. We're going to be started pretty soon. Woo! I'm tired. This is just a little community 5K. So they don't really track all the details like you would see at like a paid race or anything like that. I definitely did not finish in the top 3 of my age group, which is what they actually track. I'm 18 to 30, so basically all the fast runners were in that category. I did actually pretty well for myself though, and I didn't really focus on running very fast. I'm really just focusing on building up that capacity to run. So it wasn't super super easy, but I did push myself to do maybe 7:30-ish pace the whole time, and it took some mental toughness because I'm definitely not used to that. But you know, positive self-talk can go a long way, and really just repeating things to yourself about your identity and the type of person you are. And one of the things that I always say is I'm the type of person who's willing to do what others won't, and that one comes in really handy when you feel like you want to quit something, but you know that this is the moment where other people are thinking about that too, and you don't want to be the one to quit. You want to keep going. So anyway, that is what I did, and I had a really fun time. I'm really proud of how I pushed myself, and I am going to chill with my family for a little bit and try to enjoy the rest of the 4th of July. And I hope that you guys are enjoying your 4th of July too.
Okay, so this is day 5, and I'm back from my break yesterday on July 4th. And yesterday was actually a really good break for me because at the end of the day, I was very much excited to come back and start writing again. I was basically ready to get started writing last night. So I am definitely recharged and ready to actually attack these 5,500 words and do the best I can to make this story as good as I can during this first drafting phase. And something kind of disrupted my sleep a little bit last night because I lay down in bed at 8:45 to go to sleep, and coincidentally that is exactly the time they decided to start fireworks show. So I laid down, and then immediately I just start hearing these like explosions go off, and I'm like, dang it, this is so loud. And I had trouble falling asleep during that. I fell asleep a little later than I normally would like to, but I don't know, I feel pretty good. I actually woke up early today. So I'm going to go over to the living room. I'm going to start by reading over what I wrote last time and then looking at the scenes that I'm going to be writing next. And I also forgot to mention that last time I added on an extra scene because I felt like the transition between the two was pretty large, and I didn't feel like that should be expressed with narrative summary since it was a pretty important thing for the character to do. So the scene I added last time was this. I barely got started on this scene 15, so I think I'll probably be writing all the way through the end of Fun and Games and maybe starting Bad Guys Close In. So I'm at 17,000 words or so right now, and I'm going to keep working until about 22,500, 600, something like that. Okay, so my writing started off a little bit slow this morning, and I think it was mostly just because I wasn't sure what to do with the current scene that I was writing, and I didn't know yet where I wanted to take it. It took a little while to develop that, but I was able to finish that scene pretty easily once I got started, build a little bit of momentum, and now I'm working on the next scene. So right now it is 7 o'clock, and I'm sitting at about 19,000 words. So I'm just over the 2,000 word mark, so I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a break right now, and I'll come back in just a bit to continue with my writing. Okay, so I'm back from my short little break, just chilling outside. What I'm going to do now is get into writing the next Fun and Games scene that I had just barely started. I wrote a little bit of a sequel for it so I can get to the actual scene now. And the scenes that I think I'm going to be writing during this period are these last 2 Fun and Games scenes. I have this one to write, and then one more, and then I will be at the midpoint. So those are the scenes I'm going to focus on writing in this session. Hopefully I'll be able to finish both of them and get on to the midpoint. Okay, so it is 9:24, and well, actually I just finished this scene before the midpoint, but where's the words? Oh yeah. And I'm at 21,514 words. So as you might remember, I was striving to reach 22,500 words or around there. So I am actually only 1,000 words away. after finishing this second writing session. I wanted to go a little bit longer today because when I have my third writing session, it often feels more tiring than the previous ones. And also, I didn't do any movement today, so I don't think that I'm going to have that extra little bit of energy. So what I'm going to do now is take a little bit of a break, and then I will come back and finish up my writing for the day. Let's go. Okay, so I am back once again for the third session of the day, and I don't have too much left to write for the day. I might end up writing a little bit extra today just because a little extra here and there might actually get me ahead and prevent future problems if something gets in the way. So the last scene that I finished was the scene before the midpoint, the last of the fun and games scene. So next I'm going to focus on writing the actual midpoint itself. This is going to be an interesting scene to write. Okay, so today I wrote pretty darn efficiently. It is 12:38 and I ended up at a grand total of 22,930 words. I finished writing the midpoint scene just because I wanted to finish writing the scene. I was enjoying the scene itself, and also because I wanted to go above my goal of 22,500 and see, if I could write a little more than that. So I ended up pushing it pretty far all the way till the end of the scene, and I feel like I did a really good job with this. I think that because I took that break yesterday, I felt so much more energized when I was doing my writing today, and it was much easier to get things down. I do want to note that the problems of the story are becoming aware to me now. I'm noticing things that I don't necessarily like, things where I feel like there should be an extra scene here or there, or I didn't really get a chance to explain a certain thing or delve into a certain aspect of the story. So I feel like part of this is literally because I am toward the middle of the story. I just finished the midpoint, so I'm at that point where writers typically end up feeling like their story isn't going in as good of a direction as they initially planned, and I think that's kind of normal. So I'm just going to power through this. I'm going to finish this character's story arc as well as the other two, and then after I do that, then I can take some time to go back and edit and make sure everything's all polished up. I've budgeted 2 full months for the editing of this draft because this is the first attempt at me writing epic fantasy. It's the first attempt at me doing world building for epic fantasy. So it's kind of a new experience for me in multiple ways, and I feel like it's going to be a bigger undertaking than some of the other stuff that I've written. So those are my notes for the day. I do think that today was a really awesome writing day. I'm happy I was able to write so much, and I look forward to seeing you back again tomorrow with more writing. Okay, I'm back for day 6 of this week of working on this project of the first week of Camp NaNoWriMo and the first week of this challenge for me. I've been able to write up until the midpoint so far. So today I'm going to start with the first bad guys close in scene, and we're probably going to just be writing bad guys close in today. Maybe 4 or 5 of the scenes I'll be able to finish today. I have a lot of writing to get started on, so I'm going to get right into it. And I also just realized midway through working through this that I forgot to tell you about what my word count goal was for the day. Obviously, I'm aiming for the 5,500 goal, but as far as the actual words in the story, I'm thinking 28,500 or so would be good, because 5,500 would get me to around 28,400. So I'm just add a little bit more extra onto that, and that is where I'm going to try to aim to reach. Okay, so it is 7:20 and I have written 25,264 words. So I'm a little bit over 2,000 words in this first block. I'm going to take a little bit of a break because frankly, I'm feeling a little bit tired. And honestly, the writing in this part is getting pretty difficult because there's a lot of things that I'm trying to weave together. So I kind of slowed down a little bit because I was trying to make sure those things were making sense and include foreshadowing where it could and whatnot. That part was definitely difficult, and this whole part that I've been writing right now has been a little bit slower than normal because of that difficulty. For now, I'm going to go outside and take a little bit of a break, and then I'll be back to continue writing. Okay, so while I was out of my break, I thought about this a little bit more, and I realized what could potentially be going wrong and potentially be making this harder for me. And I think I figured out what it is. I think I'm expecting more than I can actually deliver at this moment. I do think that depending on the complexity of the story and the skill of the author, how many stories like that they've written, it can be possible to create a relatively polished first draft. However, I am not at the stage where I can create a relatively polished first draft. So expecting that everything is going to fall into place perfectly and then I'm going to have all these elements working together and making sense as I'm writing through this the first time is not the right expectation to have. I do want to get to that point where I can write a relatively polished first draft, but for right now, I just don't think that that's something that's valuable for me to focus on. That was the reason why I was feeling this frustration and just feeling like I'm not doing this correctly or the way that I want to. All of that to say, I'm going to try and turn off the editor brain a little bit more, and I'm going to focus on just writing the scene. I'm not going to focus on editing. I'm not going to focus on reading through and making sure that it was perfect or anything like that. I'm just going to write. And hopefully this will make the writing flow more smoothly, and it will probably make the writing better if I'm not second guessing myself every 5 seconds while I'm actually doing it. Okay, so it is 8:53 and I have gotten to 26,554 words. So as you might remember, I was aiming at 28,500 words, and I decided to stop right here because I am feeling a little bit tired. My eyes are starting to feel a little heavy and it's just not really flowing very easily. I do think that the writing was easier to get down, and I found myself writing more quickly and more easily, and I felt like I was writing with less reservation as well after just kind of turning off the editor a little bit and making sure that I'm actually focusing on writing the first draft and not focusing on writing the perfect draft. So I'm going to do my run first. I'll come back, take a shower, do all that stuff, and rest for a little bit, read for a little bit, and then I will come back to write some more. Okay, so I am back from all of my midday break sort of stuff, and well, first of all, my legs are really sore from the 5K 2 days ago, but that is no matter. The main thing that I wanted to talk about is that I was just reading Oathbringer. I had to try to remember which name it was. You really have to admire the way that Brandon Sanderson is able to craft these complex stories with these different characters weaving together, and with this really fleshed out world and all of this stuff. Obviously he worked on it for a long time and very hard and all that, and he's developed a lot of skill over his career in telling this sort of story, but it is awesome and really impressive to read and inspirational in a sense, because I would love to be able to tell stories like that. That'd be so awesome. So, before I say awesome one more time and I start talking like lift over here, I'm going to continue with my writing. Okay, so it is 1:51 and I have finished the day off here at 28,694 words. Even though the day started off a little bit rough and I had some trouble in the beginning, especially around perfectionism and about the internal editor, I was able to turn it off toward my second and third writing sessions, and this helped my writing speed increase much more. I didn't really write down the numbers for each of these sessions, but overall, today I was sitting at 945 words per hour, which is alright. Yesterday I ended up actually only getting 909, so a little bit faster than yesterday. And part of the problem that I'm having is running into a little bit of doubt about where the story is going and about the current state of the story. And I think this is just a common thing that happens when you're writing the middle, second act of the story. And one of the things that I'm really thinking about is actually replotting this character's arc and then rewriting it. And the reason why I'm thinking this might be necessary is that I don't feel like his arc is such a good fit for the genre of epic fantasy. I feel like the other two characters' arcs fit more with the genre, but his arc seems like, I don't know, maybe not, it's not speculative fiction. I don't even know if it is a genre. That's the problem. That is something that I was thinking about, and something that has been kind of causing me to pause while I'm writing and bringing up all sorts of thoughts about that. But I don't really know at this point. And maybe this is just a grass is always greener thing because I'm in the middle of the story and it's getting kind of difficult. And I'm looking at this other alternative and thinking, oh, things would be so much better and easier if I did it that way. It might actually be something that I do. Worst case, it'll take a few days to replot and 10 days to write. So today was a good reminder of the danger of having the internal editor on, and also not to compare my first draft to somebody else's finished draft. So that is all I got for today. It was a little bit difficult today, but I ended up actually enjoying the writing, especially toward the end. So I am going to continue with this tomorrow, and I will see you then. Okay, so it is Thursday, and that means that this is the last day of writing for this first week of Camp NaNoWriMo, of my challenge, all of that stuff. But I'm kind of struggling with this. This is the heavy topic to talk about at the beginning of the day here. But what I'm struggling with is feeling like the story that initially inspired me to tell this, the story of this guy rising out of the caste system, I feel like it doesn't fit with the skills that this character would need to learn for them to actually have their story intertwine with the other two characters later on. And that is one of the things that's kind of causing me to stop and think, what should this character be doing instead? And I haven't found a solution yet, but I do think that I'm going to have to make major changes to this character arc that I'm writing right now with Mixa. I don't think it fits that well with epic fantasy, so at the very least I would have to add in some elements to make it fit better. And I don't think that it lends itself to continuation in the next book, along with these other two characters who actually, their stories will naturally intertwine in the next book. That's the problem that I'm facing right now. Anyway, so let's actually just get started talking about what I'm going to write today and get into the writing, shall we? Let's stop ranting here. So yesterday I left off with one of these bad guys close-in scenes, and I actually had thought of a way to change it up to make it a little more interesting and tie in kind of the more epic fantasy elements to it a while back. So I did that yesterday, but it means that there's going to be another scene here that I added on. So I'm going to write that one today, and then I'm just going to finish the rest of the bad guys close in, and I'll probably get all the way to the Dark Night of the Soul. So that is what I'm going to focus on writing here. As far as word count goal, I haven't thought about that. Well, I was supposed to get 28,500 yesterday, but I'm actually at almost 28,700, so let's think about that. So I think today I'm going to aim for reaching 34,200-ish words, and I'll probably beat that by a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I need to get into this writing already because I've been talking to the camera for a long time and not writing. Okay, so it is 6:31. And I have gotten to 30,747 words. Pretty much around 2,000 words. I don't really remember where I was exactly, but it's around there. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break. My brain is feeling a little tired. And then I will come back and continue in just a bit. Okay, so as I mentioned before I actually started writing, I have been noticing that there are some things that I would like to change about the story. And as I'm writing, I do realize that there's moments that are just not as good as I expect them to be. I can tell that they're not as good as I expect them to be already. I think this goes back to the thing that I was thinking about a few days ago about the expectations and about realizing that you can't expect your first draft to be perfect. You can't expect to write without any problems. And it brings back a lot of different quotes from writers, but one that I really like is from Nora Roberts. And she says, "You can fix anything but a blank page." And I think that makes a lot of sense, because when I was doing my editing of that short story that I wrote, there were definitely things in the beginning that I did not like, that I was like, oh my god, how did I write that? But through the editing process, I was able to make it so much better. So this is just a good reminder for me not to be perfectionistic and to just focus on writing the story as best as I can right now. Okay, so I just paused in the middle of writing the first character's arc because I have come to a bit of a realization. Although I just mentioned that quote by Nora Roberts, and I do think it is a valid quote and a valid idea when it comes to writing, I'm starting to think that it isn't quite so valid in this case. And here's why. Because I'm starting to think this first character's arc doesn't really have a place in an epic fantasy novel. The story that I would like to tell with him would be gritty, would be realistic, would be him really struggling and facing a ton of, obstacles and discrimination and all sorts of things that would be in his way. And I could potentially include that story here, and I think it could be a good story still. But the problem is that it doesn't really lend itself to continuation in the genre. Because I don't want him to just learn some magic that makes his life easier, that helps him out. I don't want to fall into that chosen one trope that I kind of hate, where this character is somehow just lucky enough that he has this inherent ability or this prophesized role to play where he's able to rise out of this class. I wouldn't want to tell that sort of story, and I've been struggling with the fact that I can't see a way to tell this character's story and have it be epic fantasy and have some sort of continuation where he would have a role to play in the future of the series as I see it. And I've really been struggling with this decision, and the reason why I've been struggling is because the hierarchy was the original thing that started me down this path. It was the original thing that got me interested in this, but more and more I'm realizing that that story doesn't fit in this novel anymore. What I'm going to do is something that I alluded to yesterday that I thought I might have to end up doing, and I think now, well, I'm pretty darn sure now that I actually am going to have to end up doing this, and that is switching out a different character into this first character's position and telling a story here that actually makes more sense, that actually fits into the genre, and that would set up a character to become important for the future of the series. The thing that I'm realizing now is that I tried to adapt this story to be epic fantasy and kind of shove a square peg into a round hole rather than actually organically creating an epic fantasy story. It's a standalone story. It doesn't belong in a multi-POV story with world-changing stakes. It belongs in a story about the caste system, about a person trying to rise out of it. What does that mean for what I'm going to be doing now? It means that right now I'm actually going to start writing Ella's arc, and I'm going to take some time later on in the day and throughout the process of writing the next two characters' arcs to figure out a different story to tell for this character. Something that actually lends itself to the world-changing stakes that I would like to have, to the good versus evil sort of battle that I would like to have. So as much as I'd like to continue writing this first character's arc, as much as I'd like to tell this story, this whole challenge, this whole novel, all the things that I'm doing right now are about me improving my skills at writing. It doesn't make sense to spend the next 3.5 days writing this character's arc, even though it's not epic fantasy, even though it's not going to lend itself to an epic fantasy story, and even though I'm going to have to replace it with something different anyway to fit the novel and to actually give the series some potential. So I'm making this decision now and relatively early so that I don't have to deal with those problems in the future, and I'm happy that I'm making it now. So I'm going to get started on writing Ella's story. I've got another 2,800 words or so that I want to write today, so I'm going to focus on writing those in Ella's story. Okay, so I have written another 2,000-ish words total. I've reached 32,500, and of course my goal was to reach 34,200. So I'm doing a good job of reaching that goal. I'm getting pretty close. I am getting a little bit more tired though, so I'm thinking it's a good time for me to go out and do my run. And today I've just got like 4.5 miles, so it should be relatively quick and relatively easy, and I'm going to enjoy it. Okay, so I'm back from my break, and during my break I was thinking about what I could potentially do with the first character and brainstorming different ideas for stories. There were a few ideas that I came up with during this time, but right now is not really the time to do that. Right now I want to focus on actually getting back into the writing. I will work on this other stuff kind of like separately, because right now I want to get back into writing Ella's story. I'm in the second scene of the story so far, and it is going interestingly, so I'm looking forward to finishing it up. So today was a difficult and also very long day in this journey, because I had a bunch of writer's block. I had a bunch of doubt that was coming up about my story, and I actually realized that maybe those doubts were actually valid. It wasn't something to ignore this time. It was actually something that I could learn something from. And I think that's how writer's block kind of works. It's like a gradient. Sometimes it's literally just you being perfectionistic, you turning on the editor brain too much. But other times, there is a story level problem here that is going to impact the rest of the story, and you need to fix that problem if you're going to write the story. So although a lot of times people will say to just ignore writer's block, write through the writer's block, sometimes it actually does have a lesson that you can learn. So that was something that I got reminded of today. As far as the writing went, I actually did all right. I wrote relatively slowly because of the fact that I had to slow down for like 30 minutes and think about this, and then also try to explain it to you repeatedly and fail over and over and over again. So that kind of slowed my process down a little bit. So as you can see, it is almost 2 o'clock already, and I ended up writing 34,290 words total. And some of those are definitely not words I will use, but anyway, I was tracking with the start of 28,000, so this is where I got to. Also today, I wrote around 857 words per hour, and of course, a lot of this time in here, at least 30 minutes, maybe even an hour of this time was slow down for me struggling with this challenge that I was faced with. So today overall was a difficult day, especially for the last day of this first week of my NaNoWriMo experience. I definitely had a monkey wrench come into this whole process that I did not expect this to happen, but I do think that it will lead to a better story in the end, and that's really what matters, creating the best story that I can and improving my skills as much as I can. So overall, this week was a relatively difficult experience. Writing this much every day is actually something that's pretty difficult. Although I did get used to it more and more, it just takes a long time, and you kind of have to be ready to sit down and write for a while. But overall, I do feel like this experience was a lot of fun. It's invigorating to see how quickly your story is coming together, and even though sometimes this story you decide is not the story you want to tell in this novel, it was still fun to be able to write that quickly and get all the way toward later parts of the story in just 5 days of writing. Overall, this was actually a really fun way to write, and I actually enjoy writing this much every day. I think it's really fun. It makes me feel like an actual writer, and I'm looking forward to continuing with this next week. Although I am going to make a little bit of an adjustment for next week, because I'm going to be reading 2K to 10K and trying out some of the things I'm learning next week and trying to see if I can improve my writing speed and my efficiency that way. So in the spirit of this being a Camp NaNoWriMo sort of journey, I'm curious, how did you all do this week? Did you participate in NaNoWriMo? Were you writing something? If you participated, or even if you didn't participate, let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed this video so that YouTube knows to share with other writers like you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. What was that? Okay, I am back for day, what is it, 6? But I will see you back tomorrow for the 4th day of this. Actually, no, it's not. Tomorrow is the 4th of July.